Good day. Welcome to your news on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. As countries around the globe intensify efforts to reduce the harmful emissions that drive global warming, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, has urged that the oil companies' excess profits be taxed to contribute to a fund which she believes could stabilize nations when climate disasters strike. The head of state was addressing her colleagues at the recently concluded 27th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the parties in Egypt, when she urged that the critical issue of loss and damage be addressed. Mottley pointed out that this is what her people expect, as she went on to lobby the heads of governments present to convene a special convocation that includes oil companies to impress the need for such changes. As she left the stage, several leaders stood and applauded her powerful speech. While the Barbados Prime Minister has made her position clear, Guyanese President Ali believes that the excess profits currently being earned by ExxonMobil operating Guyana's prolific Stabroek block should not be touched. Ali was asked only on Friday if his government will be following in the footsteps of other countries to impose windfall taxes, when he explained this route cannot be trotted by his administration. The term windfall simply refers to the excess profits being made by the oil companies as a result of the higher oil prices being earned due to the Russia-Ukraine war. Meanwhile, Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire on Friday cautioned against arbitrariness due to the lack of rules and regulations in Guyana's Local Content Act of 2021. In December 2021, Guyana passed its local content legislation, which caters to locals getting first preference in the country's oil and gas sector. The local content law is intended to regulate the way companies operate in Guyana's oil and gas sector, employ persons, buy services, and the way that they procure goods. The Secretariat's key role is to monitor and evaluate companies' performance with respect to the Guyanese utilization targets outlined in the Act. However, since its passage, there have been several local content issues that were raised by local businesses and the private sector. And in other news, a Londoner on Saturday became the first Guyanese to be turned back from England under the new visa-free entry arrangement made between the two countries on October 18th. It should be carefully noted that although the United Kingdom has lifted the visa restrictions for Guyanese to travel to England, it does not guarantee entry into the country. A Guyanese can purchase a plane ticket and travel, but only the immigration authorities in England can make the final determination if the traveler is eligible or not to enter the country. The same also applies to persons traveling with visas. In making that decision, officials working at Heathrow International Airport in London are guided by England's immigration laws and other requirements besides the visa-free travel arrangement. And now let's tell you, the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation has recorded another maternal death. This time, the public hospital has stated in a press release that a 19-year-old female died while her first twins were stillborn on Sunday. The hospital reported that the mother and her babies are from Region 4. While GPHC has not provided details of the deaths or medical history of the cases, the hospital has expressed its sincerest condolences to the family of the deceased and will make every effort to provide all the necessary support during this difficult time to render any assistance and information needed. The GPHC is appealing to the public to respect the confidentiality of the deceased and her family and to allow them to mourn their unfortunate loss peacefully. And moving on, the Auditor General has launched a special investigation into the procurement of 100,000 birth certificates by the Office of the President. This was revealed in the AG's report, which was released last week. According to the report, the sum of $288 million was expended for print and non-print materials by the Office of the President. The report stated that included in the said sum were amounts totaling $18.5 million, which represented full payment in 2 contracts for the acquisition for $100,000. That should be 100,000 birth certificates. According to the report, the ministry, in its request to NPTAB to utilize the single-source method of procurement, stated that blank birth certificates are printed with highly sensitive security features which are confidential. And just before we head to a short break, let's tell you that the National Executive Committee of the AFC has announced that the party will not contest the local government elections slated for next year unless the current voters list is sanitized. Both the government and the Guyanese Elections Commission have rebuffed calls for a clean voters list before hosting LGE. According to the AFC, on the face of it, the current list contains the names of the deceased, migrated and duplicates. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 16 in Guyana. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Child sexual abuse can stay with a person for life. It can rob them of their childhood. It's an unforgivable, unforgettable, despicable act. And yet, children suffer this abuse every day. During these times, we must keep a watch out for children. If you suspect child abuse, report it to the police without delay or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979. Protect children now.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
Welcome back. Chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Paul Chiang, has been on a drive to expand the membership of the organization, and during recent branch-out meetings across the country, he has found that businesses in the hinterland are unable to benefit from the country's flagship local content legislation, intended to enable Guyanese to directly benefit from the oil and gas sector through jobs and provision of services. Chiang explained that a number of small business owners in the hinterland region have complained of being unable to participate in the oil boom. Some of the specific challenges that have been raised so far are internet access and access to finance to grow their businesses. Meanwhile, a local footballer was on Saturday busted with an illegal gun at the National Gymnasium on Mandela Avenue, where quarter-final matches of the MVP Sports Futsal Tournament were being played. The footballer was identified as Job Caesar, a member of the Ben Street Futsal team that beat Camberville 6-3 in one of the quarter-final matches. According to information, Caesar had scored a goal to help his team win, but did not get a chance to celebrate the victory with his teammates at the end of the match. Caesar is no stranger to the law. In 2019, he was sentenced to 6 months behind bars for assaulting a police officer at Pineapple Street, West Rhymeveld. He was also before the court for damaging his girlfriend's car and robbing her of a cell phone at gunpoint. And moving on, while speaking at the 27th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Egypt, Chairman of the National Tush House Council, Derek John, outlined Guyana's low-carbon development strategy. The NTC chair updated participants on how Guyana's indigenous peoples and local communities had engaged with national efforts on LCDS since 2008. John focused in particular, on the recent national consultation to produce the LCDS 2030. Mr. John spoke of the importance of continued involvement by Tush House now that the LCDS 2030 has been finalized, highlighting their role in producing the village plans. These plans will underpin locally led efforts for investment in priorities identified by villages themselves to progress the overall objectives of LCDS 2030. And to wrap things up, the Auditor General Report of 2021 has chronicled a series of payments made to an errant contractor for works that he did not complete at the Legwan Ferry Stelling. The rehabilitation project, which was awarded to Satruhan Miraj of Esmiraj Contracting Services, suffered a series of setbacks. It was eventually terminated, and steps have been taken by the PPPC government to recover the monies. It should be noted, however, that even though the additional sum was paid, auditors could not determine if the incomplete works, valued at $148.4 million, were done. According to the status report dated June 6, 2022, The Ministry of Public Works indicated that the contractor has a balance of $60 million on the contract sum. And at this point, we close things off by turning the pages of today's Kaieteur News to page 7, dedicated to being blunt. The Great Guyana Tax Giveaway. The Great Guyana Tax Giveaway must be the sweetest anywhere in the world. The math is a bit strange, if not totally stupid. The formula is giveaway $1,000 million first, then collect $663 million. This is how we are building this country. This is what makes Guyana the fastest growing economy since Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.